emerging as, with great respect, that we had found our own path, and countries were looking to India based on its experience as some kind of a role model. He also noted the fact that 2023 was going to be the year of the G20 for India, but also a year when India was going to still be a member of the Security Council and take over the chairmanship of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. But that's for the near term, but his real challenge or request to those assembled was to raise their sights in this Amrit Kal to what India should aim to become in 2047, the 100th year of our independence. I think I'll stop there for now and ask CEO whether he'd like to add something more specific, and then the honourable members before we open it up to questions and answers. Pardon?
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. And I can see many old friends here, so nice to be back. So like the VC said, just to add that I think there was a very good interaction where the chief ministers and lieutenant governors, presented best practices from the states on these four themes, but also on other matters which were important for the state. So it was a very fruitful interaction, and there was also some presentations by the education minister on the new education policy. The foreign minister spoke about the importance of G20 for the states, and we also had the commerce minister talking about the importance of exports and encouraging the states to step up their efforts. So all in all, I think it was a very fruitful meeting, and I think the VC has summarized it very well, so we'll be happy to take any comments or questions.
We will start the question and answer session. We will start with 79. Yes, Prashant.
Sir, Prashant Sahu from Financial Express. So if you could summarize the action points on crop diversification and self-sufficiency in edibles and pulses, and what is the feedback from the states presented in the meeting?
I would note that was probably the most extensively discussed point of the 4 points, but let me ask my very experienced colleague Umesh Chand if he would wish to respond.
As already mentioned, the first Prime Minister expressed the importance of agricultural diversification and need to be self-sufficient, especially in edible oil. So he mentioned that we are importing edible oil worth 1 lakh crore of rupees, and we are meeting nearly half of our total demand of edible oil from import. Then state after state, almost every state shared their experience that how they are moving in the direction of diversification, how they are diversifying, especially those states there is some sort of stress on natural resources, stress on water. So Punjab, Haryana, so like that the states share their experience in terms of what kind of incentive they are giving to farmers to shift the cropping pattern. Couple of states they came out with exact numbers that they are giving 8,000, 5,000, like that. Then right from Andhra Pradesh up to West Bengal, they told about whatever achievement they are making in increasing the production of some of them in pulses, some of them in edible oils. And also states made suggestions that if they are helped in a particular way, they can go for diversification in a much faster manner. So I can't go state by state. I have written what Rajasthan said and what others said. But overall impression was that states were quite cooperative and they are already working in this direction, both for diversification and also for achieving this self-sufficiency. And both may not be synonyms, but everybody expressed that they are working in this direction.
Sir, any additional intervention required from the central government?
Pardon?
Sir, any intervention required from the central government in this regard?
One of the rather two states they just mentioned about making MSP for pulses and oilseeds effective, and I have also noted that Rajasthan Chief Minister also expressed that if Rajasthan get better irrigation in 13 districts, they can spread area under mustard in a very big way, and that will also help in achieving self-sufficiency. The states also talked about, particularly Northeast, how they were expanding area under oil palm cultivation. Like Arunachal Pradesh, they have a target of 40,000. So this year they are bringing 4,000 hectare under this. Similarly, Tripura and like that. So mainly the demand which came was that MSP in case of pulses and edible oil need to make more effective.
I have a couple of questions. Number one, because what we see from the agenda that it was proposed that this pulses you want to increase up to certain number like 510 lakh tons, something like that. And also for edible oil, there is about 40% increase that that is the target. So that's also much less than what we actually require. That's number one. And number 2 points, sir. You talked about diversification of crops, but the same year, this year, because of wheat and rice problem, our secretary, our ministers, they are asking states to grow more wheat and rice. That's quite contrast to what the government policy is. So a clarity on that. And the last question, sir. You talked about cooperative federalism. I think Naveen Patnaik had raised this question. If there's a problem between center and states, NITI Aayog should be the ombudsman. Can you just, give a comment on that?
You first handle the.
As far as pulses are concerned, if you look at data for last 5-6 years, we have made substantial progress in increasing production output of pulses. And in fact, we are exporting little bit pulses also, and we are importing some pulses. In the case of pulses, we are now deficit only in masoos and to some extent in arhar. In the other kind of pulses, we are very close to self-sufficiency, and it has happened because last 5 years there is a big increase in production of especially chickpea, chana. So in case of pulses, our import dependence is now less than 7-8%. But in case of edible oil, import dependence is still almost 50%. So that's why independent mission on palm oil, other oil seeds, the situation in case of oil seeds is quite serious as far as dependence on import is concerned. I'm coming to that. You just asked that if that is the case, then why government, some official made statement about increasing area under wheat and rice. In the case of wheat, we had surplus of 10%. If some shock happened, wheat and rice are also staple crop. If there is a very serious shock, which was the terminal heat during the month of April this time, because of which there was a decline in wheat production of 6 million ton, and government of India gave double the quantity of what was the normal kind of PDS requirement. We started Pradhan Mantri Gareeb Kalyan Yojana, under which PDS was almost doubled. So that resulted in giving almost more than 60 million ton of wheat and rice in PDS.
No, Dr. Chand, I would say that this was, somewhat extraneous to what happened at the meeting, so maybe they could take it offline. But your second question was on the role of NITI. You used the term ombudsman. That's not the term that I think is appropriate. I think, though, we have certainly tried to be something different, an intermediary and an honest broker. Both CEO and I are new. Let me ask Dr. Paul, in a sense, of how up till now NITI has attempted to be helpful. You mentioned the case of Odisha. I think you had some experience of that.
Well, very briefly, the mandate of NITI includes cooperative federalism as well as competitive federalism, among other few mandates that are enshrined in the order that constituted the NITI Aayog. In terms of cooperative federalism, NITI has been involved in a constant and systematic engagement with the state governments. We visualize this, the state governments visualize NITI as a friend of the state in the union government system. They are already, they take part in discussions. They look upon us to solve some of their pending issues, some facilitation that is required at times for ministerial decisions and making the pitch for the stand of the state. The decisions are taken on merit, but they, as the Honorable Vice Chairman said, as an honest broker. So we like to see ourselves as a bridge between the state governments and the union government in an honest way. At the same time, we also believe that we can play a role, since we are a think tank. We get voices and ideas from all sources, all types of stakeholders. We have ideas to offer to the state governments in specific sectors where they may be ideating about how to improve that particular sector, economy, agriculture, Ayush, health, and so on. And they are an exchange of views from the capacity available to the NITI Aayog with the state government is also helpful. So it's a two-way traffic that has already been going on, and we look upon the emerging phase of NITI Aayog to strengthen this systematically and deliver on that.
Which is what I'd like the CEO who has been leading this initiative. Do you want to talk a little bit about how we see the way ahead?
Yeah, and just to come back to today's meeting, the Honorable Prime Minister made it very clear that it's a very collaborative relationship, and the states have a critical role to play in the development of India. And so on that basis, we are now, and this was again the theme of today's meeting, is the collaborative federalism, and how the states can contribute and how we can collaborate with them in taking the inclusive growth agenda forward. And so in NITI now, we are, the outreach to states, which was, as Dr. Paul mentioned, which has been going on for a long time, the role of an honest broker. So now we are continuing to work with the states to see how we can partner with them and collaborate further on their vision for India, and which is basically about inclusive growth. So they need to help them with capacity building, initially envisioning their future goal, how we can work with them to strengthen their capacity. And so I think this collaborative exercise is moving forward. So I think that's important to note.
Next question from
सर मीनाक्षी भट्टाचार्य सन्मार्ग हिंदी डेली न्यूज़पेपर। सर मैं जानना चाहती हूँ कि ममता बनर्जी हमेशा कई बार कहते रहते हैं कि केंद्र से उन्हें सहायता नहीं मिलता जो जितना उनको चाहिए, तो इस बार उनका क्या सजेशन था, क्या कुछ कंप्लेंट था उनका?
शायद मैं सीओ से, क्योंकि मेरी हिंदी इतनी नहीं है।
हाँ, ममता बनर्जी उपस्थित रही। उन्होंने अपने स्टेट के बारे में, जो स्टेट्स के इश्यूज थे उनके बारे में उन्होंने बोला, और जो G20 के बारे में, जिसके बारे में प्रधानमंत्री और फॉरेन मिनिस्टर ने कहा कि स्टेट्स के क्या अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ होंगे, अपने स्टेट्स के प्रोग्राम्स और बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस को हाईलाइट करने के लिए, और ममता बनर्जी ने उसको वेलकम किया। उन्होंने कहा कि वेस्ट बंगाल विल कम फॉरवर्ड टू शोकेस इट्स अचीवमेंट्स, और उन्होंने बाकी कुछ जो इश्यूज अपने स्टेट्स के बारे में जो उन्होंने उठाया, आई थिंक देयर इज अ रिटन स्टेटमेंट एज वेल व्हिच विल बी हैप्पी टू शेयर।
मैं ऐसे में आसिफ हिंदना से, मेरा सवाल ये है कि जो मुख्यमंत्री आए थे उन्होंने एजुकेशन पॉलिसी पर कोई डिस्कशन किया है?
क्या तो था,
I'll just start with that. I think अगर एक चीज जिसके ऊपर पूरी कंसेंसस और जोरदार कंसेंसस है वो ये नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी की जो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, स्ट्रॉन्ग कंसेंसस, एंड चीफ मिनिस्टर आफ्टर चीफ मिनिस्टर हाईलाइटेड द स्टेप्स दे हैव टेकन. And I think this has come out very strongly. NEP had बहुत अच्छा मंथन पहले भी हुआ, उसके बाद भी हुआ. उसका रिजल्ट ये है कि सारा देश इस पॉलिसी के अराउंड एक्शन भी ले रहा है और एक तरफ से बढ़ रहा है. मैं अपने सामने देख रहा हूँ जैसे मध्य प्रदेश में 8,000 आंगनबाड़ी सेंटर्स को कोलोकेटेड स्कूल के साथ कोलोकेशन करके आगे मुद्दा बढ़ाया. अगर उत्तर प्रदेश देखता हूँ तो वहाँ अभ्युदय योजना के अंतर्गत 5,000 मॉडल स्कूल दिए जा रहे हैं. JNK में टैबलेट दिए जा रहे हैं. हरियाणा में बैग फ्री स्कूल्स की कल्पना की. नागालैंड में लाइट हाउस. कहने का मतलब है कि दिस वाज समथिंग वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग, वेरी हार्टनिंग, एंड आई थिंक दिस विल बी वेरी ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव, स्टिल ट्रूली ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव फॉर इंडिया.
सीओ से बुलाने से पहले मैं ये भी कहना चाहूँगा कि it was very clear that Honorable Prime Minister believed that this was indeed central to his aspirations and vision for the country, and to the point where he said that, look, this is something that needs to be monitored literally every month by each chief minister. And he also called upon the Honorable Education Minister, Shri Ravindra Pradhan, to intervene in the meeting. As somebody who is fairly new to these discussions, what interested me was, of course, states where the agenda was substantially on elementary education, and states where the agenda was much more on higher education, because the agenda distinguished between school education and higher education. But let me hand over to CEO if you want to add anything on this.
Yeah, we will take a very few questions.